Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back, way back, to a time when the world was less cluttered, less noisy, and arguably much more tactile. Imagine the soft earth beneath your bare feet, the gentle warmth of the sun on your skin, and the quiet murmur of a distant stream. You're not worrying about your phone battery, or that pile of emails, or whether you remembered to set the DVR. No, you're just being. We're going to explore the surprisingly calm lives of pre-Columbian pottery makers, those ancient artisans who quietly coaxed beauty and utility from the very ground beneath them. You probably won't survive a day in their world, what with the lack of Wi-Fi and proper dental care, but we can certainly appreciate their serene existence from the comfort of your cozy bed. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're feeling particularly drowsy, go ahead and drop a comment with where you are and what time it is for you right now. It's always fun to see how far these sleepy stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Picture this. You're an early human, perhaps somewhere in the Fertile Crescent or the burgeoning villages of Mesoamerica, a good many millennia before anyone dreamed of Instagram or instant ramen. You're foraging, living intimately with the land, and one day, you notice something peculiar. After a rain shower, a particular patch of earth feels different. It's not just dirt, it's smooth, pliable, almost dough-like. You might idly mold it in your hands, shaping it into a rudimentary ball or a coil, feeling its cool, yielding texture. This isn't a fleeting thought, it's an ancestral awakening to a fundamental material. This isn't just mud, this is clay. This initial encounter, the accidental discovery of clay's unique plastic properties, is one of those quiet, world-changing moments that often goes unheralded in the grand narratives of history. It probably happened multiple times, in multiple places, to multiple nameless individuals, each time a small, private revolution. You'd find that this strange earth, once shaped, retained its form when left to dry in the sun. Perhaps you'd use a flattened piece to carry some berries, or a cupped hand form to hold a bit of water from a spring. It would be fragile, yes, easily crumbling if dropped, but a practical improvement over cupped hands or leaves. This simple observation that shaped earth holds its form is the very first step in a journey that leads to ornate vessels, monumental sculptures, and even the humble brick. Historians still argue whether this initial discovery was driven by a need for storage, a desire for artistic expression, or simply pure, unadulterated curiosity. Was it a pragmatic solution to a problem, or the aesthetic impulse of a human hand finding joy in creation? The answer, like the clay itself, is probably a mix of both. One quirky tidbit: some archaeologists theorize that the very first pottery might have been accidental. Imagine a clay-lined basket, perhaps used for parching grains, accidentally falling into a fire. The basket would burn away, but the clay lining, hardened by the heat, would remain a ghostly, durable imprint of its former organic container. A serendipitous discovery, a gentle nudge from the universe towards a new technology. This kind of happy accident often underpins profound advancements, a quiet testament to observation and human ingenuity. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come not from intense study, but from a gentle nudge from chaos and curiosity. From that first accidental shaping, the journey toward durable pottery wasn't a sudden leap, but a slow, quiet evolution, much like a river carving its path through stone. You've discovered that dried clay holds its shape, but still fragile. The next great revelation, one that truly elevated clay from mere mud to a transformative material, was the power of fire. Imagine you're sitting by a crackling campfire, the aroma of wood smoke mingling with the earthy scent of the forest. Perhaps you've left a piece of that sun-dried clay too close to the embers, or maybe it's fallen into the heart of the fire itself. When you retrieve it later, after the coals have cooled, you find something astonishing. The clay, once brittle, is now hard, resilient, almost stone-like. It rings with a different sound when tapped. This isn't just dried earth, it's fired earth transformed. This accidental firing, much like the initial discovery of clay's plasticity, probably happened countless times across different cultures, each instance a private aha moment for its observer. This transformative process, known as firing or baking, fundamentally changes the molecular structure of the clay. The water molecules bound within the clay are driven out, and the clay particles fuse together, creating a new, stable material, ceramic. This discovery meant that vessels could hold water without dissolving, could be used for cooking over an open flame, and could endure far longer than anything fashioned from unfired earth or organic materials. It's the difference between a sandcastle and a brick house. Early kilns weren't sophisticated structures. They might have been simple pits dug into the ground, lined with stones, where alternating layers of fuel and clay vessels were stacked. Or perhaps they were just open bonfires, carefully managed to ensure an even distribution of heat. Historians still argue whether the development of true kilns, designed specifically for firing pottery at high temperatures, arose from observing campfires, or if it was a more deliberate, iterative process of experimentation. Was it pure happenstance that led to this fundamental shift, or the slow, painstaking work of generations? What's clear is that the potter, having made this discovery, now understood that control over fire was paramount. Too hot, and the clay might melt or warp beyond recognition. Not hot enough, it would remain brittle. It was a delicate dance with elemental forces, requiring a keen eye and a patient hand. A quirky tidbit from archaeological digs suggests that some of the earliest fired pottery fragments found in places like Japan, the Jaman culture for instance, date back over 10,000 years, predating agriculture in many regions. This means that nomadic hunter-gatherers, moving from place to place, were already mastering this complex process. Imagine the dedication required to carry these fragile, yet precious, vessels as you traverse the landscape, a testament to their value and utility. It wasn't just about survival, it was about elevating their daily existence, one sturdy pot at a time. The quiet crackle of the firing pit, the rising smoke against the evening sky, these were the subtle, ambient sounds that accompanied the birth of a new era. With the secret of firing unlocked, pottery wasn't just a novelty. It became an indispensable part of daily life for countless pre-Columbian societies. Imagine waking with the sun, the soft chirping of birds your only alarm. The very first thing you might reach for, even before stretching out those sleepy limbs, would likely be a ceramic vessel. Perhaps a simple bowl for parched grains, or a sturdy jar to fetch water from the nearby river. Pottery was everywhere, quietly woven into the fabric of existence, a silent partner in almost every chore. You wouldn't just use pottery, you'd live with it day in and day out in a way that's hard for us to fully grasp in our world of disposables and infinite material choices. Think of your kitchen today: plastic containers, metal pots, glass jars. In a pre-Columbian home, almost all of those functions would have been served by ceramic. You'd store precious seeds in large, lidded jars, their thick walls offering protection from insects and moisture. You'd grind maize in a molkajit, a type of mortar and pestle, made from volcanic rock or sturdy clay. The rhythmic thump-thump-thump, a steady soundtrack to the morning. Cooking would involve placing clay pots directly onto or into the coals of the fire, their heat retention properties making them perfect for slow simmering stews or boiling grains. Historians still argue whether the invention of pottery directly led to more settled agricultural lifestyles, or if settled life created the demand for more durable storage solutions. It's a classic chicken and egg scenario, both aspects likely reinforcing each other in a gentle spiral of progress. Even beyond the kitchen, pottery found its way into almost every corner of existence. Small, finely crafted bowls might hold precious dyes for weaving or pigments for body paint. Larger, coarser vessels could be used for fermenting beverages or for burying the dead. You might have even seen children playing with miniature clay figures, learning the craft through imitation and play. The sheer ubiquity of pottery meant that every household, from the grandest chieftain's dwelling to the most humble farmer's hut, would have possessed a collection of these essential items. And unlike many other ancient crafts, Pottery fragments are incredibly durable. When a vessel broke, its shards didn't just vanish. They became part of the archaeological record, a quiet testament to the lives lived. That's why when archaeologists dig, they find so much pottery it's like a ceramic breadcrumb trail leading us back in time. A quirky tidbit. In some ancient Mesoamerican cultures, small, finely crafted ceramic effigy vessels, sometimes shaped like animals or human figures, were used as burial offerings. These weren't just practical items. They were companions for the afterlife, perhaps holding offerings of food or drink for the journey. Imagine the care that went into shaping such a vessel, knowing its final destination was not a busy kitchen, but a quiet, eternal resting place. It's a beautifully calm thought, isn't it? A final, gentle act of creation for a long, quiet sleep. To create all these ubiquitous vessels, pre-Columbian potters didn't rely on motorized wheels or fancy electric kilns. Their tools were extensions of their hands, born from careful observation of nature and an intimate understanding of the materials. Imagine you're at a potter's side, watching their movements. You'd see hands, of course, the primary instruments, manipulating the clay with an almost intuitive grace. But beyond their fingers, their toolkit was surprisingly simple, yet remarkably effective. You might notice a smooth river stone, worn perfectly round by centuries of current, used for burnishing the surface of a pot to a gentle sheen, giving it a subtle waterproof quality without a glaze. This gentle rubbing, almost like a meditative practice, could transform a dull, earthy surface into something lustrous and inviting. Then there would be a piece of dried gourd, perhaps, or a shell, carefully trimmed and smooth, used as a scraper to refine the walls of a vessel, removing excess clay and ensuring even thickness. A sharp piece of obsidian or chert, painstakingly flaked, might serve as a cutting tool, separating a new coil of clay or trimming a rim with precision. For adding decorative elements, a sharpened stick or a bird bone could be used to incise patterns, creating lines and dots that told stories or simply delighted the eye. Even a corn cob, with its bumpy texture, could be rolled across wet clay to create a subtle, pleasing pattern. It's truly amazing how much could be accomplished with so little. These tools weren't mass-produced. They were personal, often gathered from the immediate environment. The potter knew their specific stones, their favorite gourd scrapers, the stick that felt just right in their hand. There was a direct, tangible connection between the artisan, their tools, and the earth itself. This contrasts sharply with our modern world of specialized machinery and disposable implements. There was a quiet pride in knowing every stage of the creation, from finding the raw materials to the final, gleaming pot. Historians still argue whether certain specialized tools were passed down through generations, almost as heirlooms, or if each potter crafted their own set from scratch. It speaks to a less consumerist, more self-sufficient way of life, where ingenuity was born from necessity and a deep respect for natural resources. A quirky tidbit: some ancient potters in the Andean region used what are called paddle and anvil techniques. Imagine holding a smooth, rounded stone, the anvil, inside the pot while gently tapping the outside with a flat wooden paddle. This rhythmic, almost hypnotic process thinned the walls of the pot evenly and compacted the clay, making it stronger. The paddle itself might have been carved with textures, leaving subtle patterns on the vessel's exterior, a decorative touch born directly from a functional process. It's a testament to the ingenuity of these ancient artisans, finding elegant solutions with minimal technology. You can almost hear the soft, rhythmic tap-tap-tap resonating across the ancient workshop. Before a single vessel could be shaped, the pre-Columbian potter embarked on a silent, often solitary quest, the search for the perfect clay. This wasn't a trip to a ceramic supply store. It was a deep understanding of the local geology, a patient observation of the earth itself. Imagine you're walking along a riverbank, or traversing a hillside after a heavy rain, your eyes scanning the exposed earth. You're not just looking for dirt. You're looking for specific colors, textures, and subtle clues that hint at the presence of rich, workable clay deposits. Some clays might be found in ancient lake beds, others in river deltas where fine sediments have settled over millennia. It's a geological treasure hunt, guided by generations of accumulated knowledge. The ideal clay wasn't just soft, it had to have the right balance of plasticity and strength. Too much sand, and it would be brittle. Too much organic matter, and it would crack during firing. A seasoned potter knew precisely where to go, a specific bend in the river, a particular ravine, where the earth yielded its finest secrets. They might even have ancestral sites, clay pits passed down through families, silent places of gathering, where the very act of digging became a ritual. This intimate relationship with the land meant understanding its seasonal cycles, knowing when the clay would be most accessible after the rains, or when a particular patch was too dry to yield its bounty. Once a suitable deposit was located, the extraction process itself was a calm, rhythmic endeavor. You wouldn't use heavy machinery. Instead, you'd use simple digging sticks, perhaps a stone hoe, or even just your hands, gently excavating the desired clay. It was a slow, deliberate act, mindful of the earth's bounty. The extracted clay would often be lumpy, filled with impurity small stones, roots, bits of organic debris. This raw clay would then be transported back to the village or workshop, often in woven baskets carried on backs or heads, a quiet procession of earthy wealth. Historians still argue whether specific clay sources were jealously guarded secrets within families or communities, or if knowledge of good deposits was more widely shared. It speaks to the communal nature of these societies, where resources were often shared, but expertise was certainly valued. A quirky tidbit: some ancient potters, particularly in regions with limited pure clay sources, would sometimes add volcanic ash or crushed timber, like ground-up pottery shards, known as grog, or even finely crushed shell, to their clay. This wasn't just about making the clay go further. It actually improved the clay's workability, reduced shrinkage during drying, and prevented cracking during firing. It's like adding just the right amount of flour to a dough to get the perfect consistency. This careful modification of the raw material demonstrates a profound, almost scientific, understanding of their craft, a quiet innovation born from observation and necessity. Imagine the calm satisfaction of finding just the right stone to grind in a temper, knowing it would contribute to a stronger, more beautiful pot. Once the precious raw clay was unearthed and carried back, the potter's next task was to transform it from a lumpy, impure mass into the perfect, workable dough. This preparation process was a rhythmic, almost meditative sequence of steps designed to remove impurities and achieve the ideal consistency. Imagine yourself back in time, perhaps near a small, bubbling spring or shaded, quiet area in the village. The first step often involved levigation, a fancy word for a very simple process. Putting the clay in a large basin or pit with water, allowing the heavier impurities like sand and pebbles to sink to the bottom, while the finer clay particles remain suspended. You gently stir the mixture, then carefully decant the liquid clay suspension into another container, leaving the grit behind. It's like panning for gold, but instead, you're seeking pure, silken earth. After this initial separation, the potter would spread the liquid clay out on a clean, flat surface, perhaps a large stone slab or a prepared patch of ground, allowing the excess water to slowly evaporate in the sun and air. This drying stage required patience. Too fast, and the clay might crack. Too slow, and it would take forever. The potter would constantly monitor it, feeling the texture, waiting for that moment when it reached the perfect pliable state, neither too wet and sticky nor too dry and crumbly. This was when the clay reached its ideal plasticity, ready for shaping. Then came the crucial step of wedging or kneading. Think of it like a baker preparing dough. The potter would repeatedly fold, press, and roll the clay, using their body weight and rhythmic movements. This process served multiple purposes. It thoroughly mixed the clay, ensuring a uniform consistency. It eliminated any remaining air bubbles, which could cause a pot to explode in the kiln, and it aligned the clay particles, making the material stronger and more workable. It's a quiet, intensely physical meditation, the potter's hands working in harmony with the earth, transforming it with gentle force. This step, more than almost any other, demonstrates the intimate sensory knowledge these artisans possessed. Historians still argue whether different communities developed unique wedging techniques, almost like signature moves passed down through generations. A quirky tidbit: some ancient potters would actually age their clay. After the initial preparation, they might store it in damp, cool conditions for weeks, months, or even years. This aging process allowed organic matter within the clay to decompose, producing mild acids that would break down stubborn clay particles further, making the clay even more plastic and easier to work with. It's like letting a fine wine mature a quiet, almost magical transformation happening in the dark, yielding a superior product. This long, gentle waiting period underscores the calm, unhurried pace of their craft, a world where time was an ally, not an enemy. With the clay now perfectly prepared, smooth and responsive in your hands, the true artistry began. Hand building. Forget the potter's wheel you might envision. That sophisticated tool wasn't widespread in the Americas until much later. Instead, pre-Columbian potters relied on fundamental, almost primal techniques that connected them directly to the earth they shaped. Imagine the quiet intensity of focus, the rhythmic movements, the clay yielding gently under skilled fingers. One of the most common and meditative methods was coiling. Picture taking a lump of prepared clay and rolling it between your palms on a flat surface, much like rolling Play-Doh into a snake. You'd create long, even coils, one after another, their thickness carefully controlled. Then, starting with a flat, disc-shaped base, you would gently attach the first coil, pressing it firmly into place. Coil by coil, you'd build up the walls of the vessel, spiraling upwards, each new layer seamlessly joined to the last by pinching and smoothing the clay from both inside and out. This process was inherently rhythmic and slow, allowing for incredible control over the shape. You could gently push out to widen the belly of a jar, or pull in to narrow its neck, all with subtle adjustments to the angle and pressure of each coil. It's like building a silent, earthy tower, one gentle ring at a time. Another ancient and equally tactile technique was pinch potting. This often started with a simple ball of clay. You'd insert your thumb into the center of the ball, and then, with steady, gentle pressure, systematically pinch the clay between your thumb and fingers, slowly expanding and thinning the walls outwards and upwards. It's an intimate, immediate way of shaping, feeling the clay respond directly to every nuanced movement of your hand. This method was often used for smaller, more personal vessels, perhaps a drinking cup or a small bowl, each one carrying the unique imprint of the maker's touch. Historians still argue whether certain cultures preferred coiling for larger vessels and pinching for smaller ones, or if the choice was more about artistic tradition and individual preference. The beauty of hand building lies in its organic nature. No two pieces are ever exactly alike, even if made by the same potter. Each pot carries subtle variations, a gentle wobble, a slight asymmetry that speaks to the human touch and the slow, deliberate process. There was a profound sense of connection to the material, an understanding that came not from blueprints, but from feeling the clay's readiness, its slight resistance, its perfect pliability. It was a craft that demanded patience and a deep respect for the material, fostering a calm, focused mindset. A quirky tidbit: some Andean cultures developed what are known as bridge spout vessels, where two spouts are connected by a handle. These intricate forms were often hand-built using a combination of coiling and pinching, requiring immense skill to ensure they were not only beautiful, but also functional, allowing liquids to be poured without spilling. Imagine the quiet precision needed to join these delicate elements, a testament to the potter's mastery of complex shapes, achieved with nothing more than their hands and simple tools. It's the kind of quiet engineering that makes you truly appreciate the depth of their ingenuity. Once the form of the vessel was painstakingly coaxed from the clay, the pre-Columbian potter often turned their attention to its surface, adorning it with decorative motifs. These weren't just pretty pictures. They were often subtle whispers, telling stories, representing spiritual beliefs, or simply reflecting the natural world around them. Imagine the quiet, focused work, a small stick or sharpened bone in hand, as you gently press or incise patterns into the still damp clay. Each line, each dot, was a deliberate act of creation, adding a layer of meaning and beauty to the functional object. The types of motifs varied immensely across different cultures and regions. In some areas, you might find geometric patterns, spirals, zigzags, cross-hatching that were both aesthetically pleasing and perhaps held deeper cosmological significance. These patterns could be created by simple incision with a pointed tool, or by impressing textiles or woven mats into the wet clay, leaving a subtle, repetitive texture. In other places, figurative designs might dominate. You could see stylized animals, a jaguar's powerful grace, a bird in flight, a slithering serpent, or even abstract representations of human forms, perhaps ancestors or deities. These weren't always bold, vibrant images. Sometimes they were subtle, almost hidden, requiring a closer look to fully appreciate. One common decorative technique was burnishing, which we touched on earlier with the smooth river stone. By rubbing the semi-dry clay surface with a hard, smooth object, the potter could compact the clay particles, creating a subtle sheen. This wasn't just decorative, it also made the pot less porous, improving its function. Imagine the gentle, rhythmic motion, the sound of stone on clay, a quiet polishing that brought out the inherent beauty of the material itself. Another technique involved applying slips, which are liquid clays of different colors, often made from finely ground minerals. These slips could be painted onto the surface before firing, creating contrasting colors and intricate designs. Sometimes, multiple colors of slip were used, allowing for sophisticated polychrome decoration. Historians still argue whether specific decorative motifs were exclusive to certain families or clans, serving as a kind of visual signature, or if they were more broadly shared within a community's artistic tradition. A quirky tidbit: some ancient potters in what is now Peru created fascinating stirrup spout vessels that, when liquid was poured from them, emitted a whistling sound, often mimicking animal calls. Imagine a pot that not only held water, but also sang to you. These weren't just functional or decorative. They were multi-sensory experiences, blending utility with an almost playful artistry. The intricate shaping and precise hollowing required for these acoustic properties demonstrate a remarkable understanding of both form and sound. It's a delightful example of how these ancient artisans infuse their creations with unexpected charm and ingenuity, making the everyday a little more magical. The final, often most enigmatic step in the potter's journey was the transformation of dull, earthy clay into a lustrous, durable object through the application of glazes. While true vitreous, glass-like glazes as we know them from later European and Asian traditions were less common in pre-Columbian Americas, ancient potters developed their own ingenious methods to achieve similar effects. Imagine the quiet anticipation as you prepared a special mixture, knowing it held the promise of turning a matte surface into something subtly gleaming. One of the most widespread techniques to create a lustrous surface was, as we touched on before, burnishing. This wasn't a glaze in the modern sense, but a mechanical process. By meticulously rubbing the surface of a leather-hard clay with a smooth stone or tool before firing, the potter would compact the clay particles, creating a tight, polished surface that would then be able to take on a gentle sheen in the kiln. The more intensive the burnishing, the higher the polish. This subtle gloss, achieved through sheer effort and precision, made the pottery less porous and more appealing. It's a testament to patience, the rhythmic motion of the stone on clay, a quiet dance of friction and transformation. Another method involved applying slips, which are essentially liquid clays, often colored with natural mineral pigments like iron oxides for reds and browns, or manganese for blacks. These slips were painted or sometimes even dipped onto the pot's surface before firing. When fired, These slipped surfaces would often take on a soft, matte finish, but some cultures, through careful control of firing temperatures and clay compositions, achieved a subtle gloss or a vibrant color that approached the look of a glaze. For instance, the Moche culture of ancient Peru, famous for their naturalistic effigy vessels, often used highly refined slips to create rich, varied surfaces. Historians still argue about the exact chemical compositions and firing conditions that allowed some pre-Columbian slips to achieve such impressive, almost glassy, appearances without true glazing technology. Was it an accidental discovery, or a slow, iterative refinement over centuries? A truly quirky tidbit related to surface treatments. In some parts of Mesoamerica, a technique known as resist painting was employed. Imagine painting designs onto a pot with a substance like wax or a thick clay slip that would burn off during firing, leaving the unpainted areas in a contrasting color or texture. Or, conversely, painting areas with a specific pigment that would resist the effects of the firing atmosphere, like reduction firing, which we'll get to later. This required an incredible understanding of materials and firing dynamics, creating intricate patterns that emerged almost magically from the intense heat of the kiln. It's like a secret message revealed by fire, a quiet, almost spiritual transformation, turning something mundane into a masterpiece of subtle artistry. The creation of pottery wasn't always a solitary pursuit. For many pre-Columbian societies, it was a deeply communal activity, a gentle hum of shared effort and quiet camaraderie. Imagine stepping into a village square or a designated workshop area, where the air is filled with the earthy scent of clay and the soft sounds of creation. You'd see families working side by side, generations passing down knowledge not through textbooks, but through the patient imitation of hands. It's a beautifully simple, interconnected way of learning and living. Children would play nearby, perhaps molding their own small figures from discarded scraps of clay, absorbing the rhythms and techniques of the adults. Apprentices, often younger family members, would meticulously observe and assist, learning the subtle feel of the clay, the precise pressure needed for coiling, the patience required for burnishing. This wasn't a formal schooling system. It was an organic transfer of expertise, where the elders demonstrated and the younger generation absorbed through osmosis and participation. The shared laughter, the quiet encouragement, the occasional gentle correction, these were the sounds of a community creating together. Large-scale pottery production, particularly for ceremonial vessels or items intended for trade, might have involved specialized workshops where groups of potters collaborated. Imagine the efficient flow of activity. One person preparing the clay, another coiling the bodies of vessels, a third refining the rims, and yet another applying decorative slips. This division of labor, while informal, allowed for greater efficiency and consistency in production. It also fostered a sense of shared responsibility and collective pride in the finished products. Historians still argue whether these communal workshops were strictly organized or if they operated more as flexible, cooperative spaces where individuals could come and go as needed. Regardless, the evidence suggests a strong sense of collective endeavor. A quirky tidbit: in some Andean communities, particularly among the Inca and their predecessors, female potters were often the primary producers of certain types of utilitarian pottery, carrying on traditions passed down through generations of women. Imagine the soft chatter, the quiet singing, or the rhythmic sounds of their work as women gathered to transform earth into the essentials of daily life. This communal aspect, often gendered, provided not only economic sustenance, but also a vital social fabric, strengthening bonds and preserving cultural practices through the shared act of creation. It's a testament to the powerful, yet often unsung, role of women in shaping ancient material cultures. Beyond their daily utility, many pre-Columbian pottery forms held a deeper significance, transcending the mundane to become sacred vessels for ritual and ceremony. Imagine the soft glow of firelight illuminating intricate patterns on a specially crafted pot, its purpose not to hold food or water, but to connect with the divine. These weren't just objects, they were conduits, silent participants in the most profound moments of life and death, celebration and supplication. In numerous cultures, ceramic vessels were integral to religious practices. Large, ornate urns might have been used to burn incense during solemn ceremonies, their rising smoke carrying prayers to the heavens. Effigy vessels, shaped like animals or anthropomorphic deities, often depicted powerful mythological figures or ancestral spirits, serving as focal points for worship or storytelling. You might see a jaguar vessel used in a ritual seeking strength, or a feathered serpent pot invoking fertility. These weren't merely representations. They were believed to embody the essence of what they depicted, bringing the sacred into the tangible world. Think of the elaborate burial urns found in cultures like the Zapotec of Oaxaca, Mexico, or the Moche of Peru. These weren't simple containers. They were often miniature architectural models, effigies of ancestors, or scenes depicting underworld journeys, designed to house the remains of the deceased and accompany them into the afterlife. The care and artistry poured into these vessels speak volumes about the profound belief systems and the importance placed on the journey beyond this life. It was a gentle, artistic way of honoring the transition, ensuring a peaceful rest. Historians still argue about the precise meanings of many of these complex iconographies, whether they represent specific deities, ancestral lineages, or cosmological principles shared across different communities. A quirky tidbit: some ceramic vessels from pre-Columbian South America, particularly among the Nazca culture, incorporated double spout and bridge designs, but with an intriguing twist. When these were gently tilted, air moving through internal chambers could produce haunting, almost melodic whistling sounds, often mimicking animal calls or human cries. Imagine using such a vessel in a ritual, the quiet pouring of a liquid accompanied by an ethereal whisper or a bird's song. It's a remarkable fusion of form, function, and acoustic artistry, demonstrating an understanding of sound dynamics that adds another layer to their sacred uses, transforming the act of offering into a serene, auditory experience. As pottery evolved from a simple domestic tool to a sacred artifact, it also became a quiet engine of economic exchange, weaving intricate webs of trade across vast pre-Columbian landscapes. Imagine ancient pathways, perhaps just faint trails through forests or along coastlines, where goods moved slowly, gently, from one community to another. Pottery, in its various forms, was a vital part of this commerce, quietly fueling interactions between disparate groups. Some communities, blessed with superior clay deposits or specialized skills, became regional centers of pottery production. Their vessels, distinguished by unique forms or decorative styles, would travel far from their origin points, carried by human porters, paddled in canoes, or perhaps even traded over long distances through a series of intermediaries. You might find a distinctive type of pottery, perhaps a highly burnished blackware, hundreds of miles from where it was made, testament to a thriving, albeit slow-paced, trade network. This movement of goods wasn't just about utility. It was about the exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural influences subtly shaping the artistic and social landscape. Pottery could serve multiple economic roles. It was a container for other valuable goods like cacao beans, salt, or precious pigments. The value of the container itself might even sometimes exceed the value of its contents, especially for particularly fine or exotic pieces. It also functioned as a form of currency or wealth, a tangible asset that could be accumulated and displayed, signifying status and prosperity. Think of the elaborate, finely made polychrome vessels found in elite burials. These weren't just personal possessions, but symbols of power and connection acquired through extensive trade. Historians still argue about the precise mechanisms of ancient trade, whether it involved direct bartering, reciprocal gift-giving, or a more formalized system of commercial exchange. It was likely a fluid combination of all these, adapting to local customs and needs. A quirky tidbit: The highly distinctive Chupacuaro pottery from what is now central Mexico, dating back over 2 millennia, is renowned for its vibrant red and white geometric patterns and charming, often abstract, human figurines. These distinctive pieces have been found far beyond their presumed origin area, suggesting a robust and far-reaching trade network, perhaps driven by their aesthetic appeal or ritualistic significance. Imagine the quiet excitement of an ancient trader bringing these beautifully decorated pots into a new village, a splash of color and artistry in a perhaps more monochrome landscape. Their gentle journey across ancient lands speaks volumes about human connection and the quiet allure of beauty. As you continue your journey through the serene world of pre-Columbian pottery, you might wonder about the hands that shaped these earthen treasures. Were they men's hands, strong and calloused from digging, or women's hands, nimble and precise from intricate shaping? The answer, like much in ancient history, is nuanced, reflecting the diverse gender roles that quietly underpinned these societies. There wasn't a single, universal rule. Rather, the division of labor in pottery production varied significantly from culture to culture, often reflecting broader social structures and economic needs. In some Mesoamerican and South American communities, archaeological evidence and ethnographic studies of their modern descendants suggest that pottery making was primarily a female domain. Imagine the gentle rhythm of women working together, perhaps in a quiet courtyard or under the shade of a tree, sharing stories and laughter while their hands skillfully transformed clay. This often applied particularly to utilitarian, whereas the everyday cooking pots, water jars, and storage vessels essential for household sustenance. The craft would be passed down from mother to daughter, an intimate knowledge shared across generations, ensuring continuity and preserving specific techniques and styles. This specialization allowed women to contribute significantly to the household economy and community life, often generating surplus goods for local exchange. Historians still argue whether this gender division arose from practical considerations, like women being closer to the home for child rearing, or if it had deeper ritualistic or social meanings. Conversely, in other cultures, particularly those producing more specialized or ceremonial pottery, such as elaborate effigy vessels or large funerary urns, men might have been the primary potters. This could be linked to the ritualistic aspects of the craft, or the physical demands of sourcing particular clays or managing larger kilns. For instance, among some classic Maya groups, some of the most intricate and symbolically rich polychrome vessels, often associated with elite burials, appear to have been created by highly specialized male artisans, operating in workshops attached to royal courts. The creation of such prestige goods often involved greater artistic license and the use of rare pigments, elevating the potter's status to that of a specialized artist rather than simply a craftsperson. A quirky tidbit: some ancient Peruvian cultures created portrait vessels, incredibly realistic ceramic representations of specific individuals, often leaders or warriors. While the artists who made these are largely anonymous, the detailed facial features suggest a focus on individual identity. Imagine the quiet intensity of the potter, painstakingly molding a face, perhaps from memory or observation, capturing the essence of a person in clay. The creation of such personalized pieces further blurs the lines of who was a potter and who was an artist in these ancient societies, showing a profound dedication to capturing human form and spirit within the medium. This duality, utilitarian versus artistic, gendered versus shared, showcases the richness and adaptability of pre-Columbian pottery traditions. One of the most remarkable aspects of pre-Columbian pottery, as you drift deeper into its quiet history, is its incredible preservation. Unlike textiles or wooden objects, which often decay over centuries, fired clay is remarkably durable. This durability is why pottery, more than almost any other artifact, serves as an enduring, dreamlike window into the past, offering archaeologists and historians unparalleled insights into ancient cultures. You're essentially holding a piece of history, often with the fingerprints of the maker still subtly visible on its surface. Imagine a vessel, perhaps a simple cooking pot, used daily for generations, then discarded after it cracked or broke. It wouldn't just vanish. Instead, its fragments would settle into the earth, slowly becoming part of the archaeological record. Over millennia, layers of soil, ash, and subsequent human activity would build up, burying these silent witnesses. When archaeologists carefully excavate these sites today, pottery shards are often the most abundant finds. Each broken piece, like a puzzle fragment, holds a tiny piece of information about the people who made and used it. You can learn about their diet from residues on the inside, their trade networks from the type of clay used, and their artistic styles from the decoration. The process of firing clay at high temperatures permanently alters its chemical structure, making it resistant to decomposition by bacteria, fungi, and moisture. This is why pottery endures when almost everything else perishes. Think of the delicate textiles of ancient Peru, found only in the driest desert conditions, or the wooden structures of early settlements, long since turned to dust. But pottery almost universally survives, offering a continuous narrative across time. It's a quiet testament to the enduring power of transformation through fire. Historians still argue about the best methods for dating ancient pottery, relying on a combination of stratigraphic context, stylistic analysis, and modern scientific techniques like thermoluminescence. A quirky tidbit: the famous Nazca lines in Peru, massive geoglyphs etched into the desert floor, are often found with associated ceramic fragments. These fragments, often from ceremonial vessels, help archaeologists understand the timing and context of the line creation, even though the lines themselves are simply depressions in the earth. So, even when pottery isn't the main event, its humble fragments act as silent guides, providing crucial clues to monumental ancient mysteries. It's a quiet synergy, the durable pot shard illuminating the ephemeral earthwork, helping us piece together the puzzle of a long-gone world. As centuries turned into millennia, the quiet reign of handcrafted pre-Columbian pottery began its slow, peaceful evolution into other forms and practices. While the fundamental principles of working with clay endured, the ubiquitous role of the hand-built vessel gradually shifted with the arrival of new technologies and materials. Imagine the subtle whispers of change carried on the wind, not a sudden upheaval, but a gentle fading of one era into another. The most significant shift, of course, arrived with the European contact. The introduction of the potter's wheel, a technology that had been a staple in the Old World for millennia, revolutionized production. The wheel allowed for incredibly fast and uniform shaping of vessels, a stark contrast to the slow, meditative process of coiling and pinching. Suddenly, a single potter could produce dozens of identical pieces in the time it once took to craft a handful. This efficiency was undeniably powerful, but it also subtly altered the intimate connection between the potter's hand and the clay. You might still find hand-built pieces, particularly in remote areas or for ceremonial purposes, but the tide of progress, or rather, efficiency, had turned. Beyond the wheel, new materials and processes emerged. The introduction of metal cookware by Europeans, while initially rare, eventually provided alternatives for cooking and storage that were more durable and less fragile than clay. Glass, too, though slower to proliferate, offered transparency and different properties. The slow, gentle decline of pottery's singular dominance wasn't a sudden death, but a gradual diversification of options, much like a river branching into smaller streams. Historians still argue about the speed and completeness of this cultural shift, whether indigenous pottery traditions were quickly supplanted or gradually integrated with new European techniques. The reality was likely a complex tapestry of adaptation and resilience. Today, while the era of ubiquitous hand-built pre-Columbian pottery as a daily necessity has passed, its legacy endures. You can still find communities across the Americas where ancestral pottery traditions are kept alive, not as a purely utilitarian craft, but as an art form, a cultural preservation, a quiet connection to the past. These contemporary potters are not just making objects. They're tending to a flame of heritage, ensuring that the ancient rhythms and wisdom of the clay continue to resonate. The subtle wobble of a hand-coiled pot, the earthy scent of the clay, the whisper of centuries of hands at work, these are the echoes that remain, quietly inviting us to slow down and listen. You can almost feel the smooth, cool clay in your own hands now, can't you? Imagine the soft, rhythmic hum of the ancient world fading into the quiet of your room. Let the gentle stories of these unseen artisans, their patient hands shaping earth into purpose, guide you deeper into slumber. Feel the weight of history, not as a burden, but as a soft, comforting presence. Allow your thoughts to drift, like smoke from an ancient kiln, rising slowly into the vast, star-dusted sky. The quiet dedication of those ancient potters, their calm focus, now settles over you, a gentle lullaby from a long-lost time. Let the peace of their craft become your own.